Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I'm also pleased to be speaking in favour of this bill and support any move to keep the national broadband network in public ownership. Now, Deputy Speaker, last night when I thought I might be speaking on this bill, I listened to the member for Fadden liken this debate to a Seinfeld episode. Well, Deputy Speaker, the truth of course is that the previous government did want to sell off the NBN, and that those opposite have form when they eye off critical public infrastructure. And the truth, of course, Deputy Speaker, is that the whole Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison government's approach to broadband was like a decade-long episode of Utopia or the thick of it. But it's Australians who've paid the price for their negligence over that last 10 years. And Deputy Speaker, as a government, we are determined not to make the same mistakes as former coalition governments who have mismanaged communications policy in Australia for decades. And it comes from that beginning place of not actually really caring, thinking that these debates are about nothing when they are actually critical to the Australia not just of the now, but of the decades to come. And Deputy Speaker, as much as they protest and try to airbrush history, the Liberals have shown a pathological desire to sell off critical assets. We know that the former coalition government had taken the initial legislative steps to prepare their NBN for sale, including declaring the network built and fully operational in 2020. Deputy Speaker, I wholeheartedly support this bill and the goal of providing a solid foundation for communication policy in this nation long into the future. When John Howard was swept from office in 2007, he left Australia a broadband backwater. For those that remember, the privatisation of Telstra was a terrible policy outcome driven by ideological zealotries. Crucially, the sale also deprived the government of strategic levers to drive the investment necessary for Australians to fully access reliable, high-speed broadband and the productivity and digital inclusion benefits that delivers. But of course, that was a government that had no understanding that this wasn't just to be an entertainment vehicle. This is a vehicle that was to transform workplaces, the way we deliver services. It's understandable that when governments lack vision, they don't understand why you need to invest in their future. So, of course, Labor's decision in 2008 to deploy a government-owned national broadband network rightly took a long-term view of the needs of Australian consumers and taxpayers in a changing world. The NBN was built by Australians for Australians. It belongs to all Australians and it belongs in public hands. Deputy Speaker, the NBN is an essential piece of national utility infrastructure, helping people connect regardless of where they lived or worked, not caring for what postcode they might be under, what region or state of the country that they live in. This was initiated by Labor with a positive vision for the future, delivering equity in access and opportunity, combined with sound long-term economics. It meant Australians would enjoy a world-class connectivity powering the digital economy for decades to come. So what happened next, Deputy Speaker? But enter the neoclassical wrecking ball of the Liberals, who attacked public ownership and any policy idea associated with it. Just as they sold out Australia on the privatisation of Telstra, the coalition sold out Australia again. They abandoned fibre and instead deployed an almost absurd copper alternative for $29 billion. And Deputy Speaker, by May 2022, when the Albanese government was elected, the coalition's second-rate NBN was $28 billion over budget, nearly double the cost, 4 years behind schedule, and then, of course, backflipping to fibre. And, Deputy Speaker, as I said before, the former coalition government had taken the initial legislative steps to prepare their NBN for sale. This was their game plan. They also supported an NBN submission to increase wholesale prices on their products by CPI plus 3% to bolster their income streams in preparation for this sale. It was Telstra all over again. Fortunately, this was rejected by Labor and the ACCC. And, Deputy Speaker, for those members that genuinely seek to represent regional Australia, well, they should be cognisant that in government, consultation on regional telecommunication services there has been strong and clear feedback from communities in rural and regional communities that the national broadband network should stay in government ownership. And, Deputy Speaker, we've had quite a number of speakers who've gotten up and, whilst it's connected, have talked about challenges around mobile coverage, about dealing with black spots, and there are challenges across the country. There are significant parts of my electorate that we're still working through those issues. But it beggars belief that the same people who effectively are making these arguments don't support the NBN remaining in public hands. Deputy Speaker, keeping the NBN in public ownership is essential to continue to provide modern, accessible and affordable communication services in Australia. The Albanese government understands this, and it's delivering its vision for a world-class, high-speed broadband network. Over $3 billion in NBN fibre and fixed wireless upgrades are being delivered on time and on budget. More than 70,000 kilometres of new fibre has been rolled out, and over 2,300 fixed wireless towers have been upgraded. And whilst today's debate about this bill, Deputy Speaker, is about our vision and securing the long-term policy settings of the nation, I would like to flag that I will continue to work with the NBN to better outcomes for households and businesses in my electorate of Bean. Much has been achieved, but there is still more to do, and I will not rest until we get the results that Bean deserves. And it's good to see that suburbs like Gordon, Banks and Conda, in the southernmost parts of the electorate of Bean, are amongst the suburbs that can now access these higher upgrades that are happening right around the country. And, Deputy Speaker, the rollout of the NBN has correlated with downward pressure on the cost of communications in Australia, with an overall 9% decrease in communications prices from 2017 to 2024 compared to a 22% CPI growth over that time. So it's only by keeping the NBN in public ownership that that vision can continue to be delivered. And only the Labor government has committed to this vision. But, Deputy Speaker, it's not just the government which supports this policy. Consumers support it, and not just the regional consumers that I just talked about before. The Australian Communications Consumer Action Network CEO, Carol Bennett, is on the record as supporting it. Workers support it. Shane Murphy, the Communication Workers Union National President, has publicly backed this move. These are the workers who work with this infrastructure every day. The industry representatives support it. For example, Optus interim CEO Michael Venter has said his company supports this initiative. Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government's position on the NBN is clear. In 2021, we made an election commitment to retain the NBN in public ownership, to keep broadband affordable and to complete building a world-class fibre network. In 2022, we formalised this commitment in a new Statement of Expectations for the NBN, and we have introduced legislation now to enshrine this position in law. Deputy Speaker, Labor understands the NBN is not just something that earns a rate of return. It's a critical piece of social and economic infrastructure. And under Labor, the NBN will be affordable, it will be reliable, it will be fast, and it will be safe in public hands. I support this bill and the important goals behind it that will be of great benefit to the nation and the electorate of Bean, which I represent. So, Deputy Speaker, to make this clear again, on this side of the House, we strongly believe that the NBN needs to stay in full government ownership to support the ongoing upgrade of the network and ensure ongoing regulatory oversight of NBN wholesale pricing, keeping broadband affordable for Australians. We know what happens when you privatise assets like this. As I said, the government made this commitment clear in the updated Statement of Expectations issued to the NBN Co in 2022. Government ownership is essential to deliver the strategy for a more connected Australia, no matter what postcode you live in, including rolling out more fibre in the fixed line network, planning for the transition to next generation satellites, which of course are going to be critical for parts of my electorate like Norfolk Island, and modernising universal service obligations. The NBN is crucial national infrastructure with cybersecurity and national security imperatives requiring strong government oversight. This is best delivered through certain ongoing government ownership. Any future sale of the NBN would likely involve foreign ownership, raising potentially serious national sovereignty and security risks. And as I said, I've mentioned before, Deputy Speaker, the former coalition government had taken the initial legislative steps to prepare the NBN for sale, including declaring the network built and fully operational in 2020, one of the great works of fiction of our times. So when the member for Fadden talked about this debate being a Seinfeld episode, a debate about nothing, it's not true. We know what their intent is. We know what would occur if they had the capacity to have control over the fate of the NBN again. Deputy Speaker, the sale of Telstra under the Howard government was a prime example of the coalition making promises on prices and services for telecommunications that were never delivered. And the sale of Telstra also deprived the government of leverage to roll out fibre broadband in Australia, necessitating the Rudd government's establishment of the NBN in 2008. Keeping the NBN in public ownership is essential to continue to provide modern, accessible and affordable communication services for all Australians. This is a message that I get time and time again from constituents across the electorate of Bean, whether it be in the Deep South, in the suburbs of Conder and Banks, whether it be in the Molonglo Valley, the new suburbs of out near Stromlo, or whether it be on Norfolk Island. My constituents are clear, and in accord with their wishes, I support this bill. I support the important goals behind it that will be of great benefit to the nation. I'm so proud to be a member of government with a Minister for Communications as strong and as effective as the Minister we have, who's delivering right across our country, but also delivering for all the constituents of the electorate of Bean.